What it do, YouTube? It's your boy Rod Too Deep. Back at it again with another video. For this video, I'm going to be once again reviewing and giving my thoughts about the HBO Max series, Welcome to Derry, Season 1, Episode 3. This video will be added to the Welcome to Derry Season 1 reviews playlist that I have created. I will link it down below in the description so you can watch my other reviews of episodes 1 and 2 if interested. Before I get started, I will do a spoiler warning. If you have not yet watched episodes 1, 2, and 3 and don't want to be spoiled, click off of the video now. You have been warned. Okay, so the episode begins in the point of view of a small boy named Francis Shaw, who is at the circus with his father. Francis walks off on his own and comes in contact with an old man who encourages him to walk inside of a tent that is a part of the circus. Francis walks in and sees a bunch of freaks. One of them looks like Chewbacca from Star Wars, and as he continues to walk through the tent, he sees conjoined twins. The conjoined twins, who are girls, have what looks to be like their organs coming out of their body. When he gets disgusted, he freezes up for a second before going inside of a dark room in the tent. I was preparing for a jump scare. I knew one was coming as the old man who's missing an eye pops out of the darkness and gives Francis a quick scare. Francis quickly runs out of the tent, and the old man who was standing outside looks a bit more normal this time around. When Francis ran out, he instantly bumps into his father, who takes a glance at the tent he was in and tells him to not be a sissy. As him and his father leave, their car breaks down on the road. They just so happen to be by a water stand, so his father gives him some sense to go buy some water from the stand. The stand is ran on the side of the road by 3 little kids. Francis makes eye contact with one of the kids in particular, who looks to be a young Native American girl. I can tell that they are feeling each other because Francis seems to like what he sees, and she is intrigued by his slingshot. After he grabs the water and pays for the water with the cents his father gave him, his father later asks him about the slingshot as they are driving away after the car was fixed. Francis smiled, so it was safe to assume he gave it to the young girl. In the next scene, the young girl is playfully chasing after Francis until he ended up going into the woods. She stopped chasing him and told him to stop running. You could tell that she knew something was off about the forest. Her spidey senses must have been tingling. And we quickly see why, because the old man from inside the circus tent quickly appeared, and he is hiding behind a tree. He then starts getting closer to Francis as he tries to grab him. While chasing Francis, he turns into a monster and is moving in all types of crazy ways. Francis falls about 2 different times because, it's a scary show. The actors and the actors will fall a million times while being chased. It's inevitable. I was screaming the whole scene saying if this girl don't run into that forest and save him, it was obvious that she would shoot the old man with the slingshot that was given to her. Surely she did. Once he was hit in the eye, Francis and the girl begin to run out of the forest. Francis is following behind her as the old man is getting closer to them. He looks to be about 6'7". I would have low-key grabbed Lil Shorty and threw her right to him if it were me in this situation. I'm not going to lie. Everyone for themselves. It looks as though he seems to be devoured by the old man monster because he kept slowing himself down by looking back. I don't know why I always fall in the trap of getting attached to a character in this show. They're dropping like flies from the looks of it. From the look of things, Juniper Hill is basically a nut house. You got to feel for Lily here because they're drugging her up and her doctor is trying to up her dosage. I don't blame her for lying and saying it was Ronnie's dad because it's not like she really had a choice. It was either lie like the chief wanted her to, or she has to spend who knows how long in that loony house, which is Juniper Hill. If she were to have asked me what I would do if I were her, I would have straight up told her, I would have did the same exact thing. Sheesh, maybe even involved Ronnie herself and her grandmother as his accomplices. Anything to stay out of this nut house, dosed up on drugs. All love to Ronnie, though, and her father, just saying what I would have done in real life. Salute to Lily's nurse for not making her feel bad and sort of letting her know that she believes what she saw without actually saying it out loud. Ronnie's dad sitting in that cell doesn't sit right with me. He sure knows his movie stars, though. He's like an encyclopedia full of the names of movie actors. The sad reality of being a black man in this society, not even just in the 60s. If you get lied on by a white woman, you are finished. Look at Emmett Till. Shame on the chief. Still hopeful that he isn't a bad person, though. Kind of feel like this was just a scare tactic. Hope I'm right. If he so-called claims to know when someone's lying, he should know that Lily was clearly lying to please him. I wonder who planted them cigarettes if it wasn't the chief himself. Rich saying America wouldn't just throw people in jail for nothing gave me a much-needed laugh. I'm glad that Will had the sense to let him know that we must not be talking about the same country. I wouldn't put it past Patty and her patty cakes to have written on Ronnie's locker. I was actually surprised by how understanding to an extent and calm Ronnie was with Lily in the bathroom. It was so sweet of Lily to bring Ronnie something to wash the stains off her hands. I'm low-key actually kind of with her when it comes to the idea of trying to snap a picture. Like the nurse was hinting at, no one will believe you until they can actually see proof. So from what the military is getting at is that Halloran has some sort of psychic abilities. Wonder if Pennywise is allowing him to find these clues or not. Getting them closer to the target like they're planning could be very risky, especially if they get right on top of it in the air like they're planning on doing. Halloran is being used as bait. I'm not a fan of this whatsoever. Halloran and Leroy energy towards each other is so off-putting at times. Seeing a slingshot inside of the cigar box was crazy. It seems as though whenever Halloran places his hand on a slingshot, it gives him a heads up on where Pennywise is currently located. In a flashback of Frances and a young girl, it seems as though she knows a bit about Pennywise to an extent to know that he can't leave the forest. That must have been why she didn't want to follow after Frances into the forest in the first place. In this moment, I was starting to think that Frances is maybe a younger version of the general that wanted Halloran to get on top of Pennywise to begin with. Halloran seems to be possessed by a spirit or something whenever he places his hand on a slingshot. I personally would have landed that plane once I would have turned my head to see him acting all strange. I wasn't expecting to see Halloran actually being able to speak with Pennywise. Once I seen the yellow eyes in the darkness, I thought it was raps for him. Halloran making eye contact with Pennywise almost gave him PTSD from back to his war days. What's up with Pennywise depicting himself as people's deceased family members? It's so diabolical. He had Halloran about to jump out of a plane thinking he was escaping his lair. Thankfully, Leroy was there to save him just in time. I can see why the military wants to be able to have control of this type of power. I don't think Halloran will survive another encounter with Pennywise, so hopefully they don't plan on having him do something like this again, but they most definitely will. Especially knowing that he was able to get in direct contact with Pennywise. Halloran is absolutely right. They should for sure stop messing with Pennywise, but at this point it's too late. Like he said, they have already been seen. It's like Pennywise gave him a not-so-subtle warning to leave while you can through the depiction of his grandmother. If I were Halloran, I would say, forget having a space where I can let off steam with my boys. Let's all collectively get out of Derry as a whole and let the military continue on with the operation as they please by themselves. He's just going to continue to be used as a puppet until he meets his demise. The military doesn't care about him, especially since they have his replacement, Leroy, now. Rich is a funny character. He's my new small size Phil until further notice. Hope Mars gives him a chance. I like this new little mystery gang of Lily, Rich, Ronnie, and Will. I'm glad that Rich can see the romance brewing between Will and Ronnie too. I spoke on this in my last video, which will be linked in the description below. My theory of Francis Shaw being a general was put to bed quickly as we see him walk into the not-so-young girl store 50 years later. It's crazy that he had no recollection of her or Derry itself after leaving the town. She clearly has to know a lot about what's going on in Derry because she is quick to let him know that he isn't the only person to have had this happen to him. Finally got to find out what her name was, which is Rose. I can stop referring to her as the young girl and not so young girl anymore. It only took about 40 minutes into the episode. Like, that's crazy. But I'm glad to see that they both survived the attack of Pennywise. From the flashback, we see that she does in fact know from a young age that Derry has a way of making you forget once you leave the town, even if you don't want to. I want to see what the significance of Rich's uncle is going to be, especially since he knows a bit about how to conjure things that would eventually take the form of someone's dead ancestors to really freak them out. Essentially what Pennywise does to the majority of his victims. Them town folk is always watching. I felt the presence of Pennywise yellow eyes as Halloran walked inside Leroy's home. Leroy's wife should know that her working with the movement would have tarnished his reputation in regards to the military food chain. She was a history teacher for crying out loud, but has no sense of knowing something like this would be a concern when you're a black person in the 60s. I'm hoping that Will is going to actually be able to meet Halloran like Leroy claims. I got a bad feeling one of them will meet their demise before that meetup can happen. I've been on Halloran for so long up to this point and never thought that he would be one of the men in the mask. What a twist. They caught me off guard, all of a sudden making his character a bit more likable, and I felt bad for him being used as the puppet by the military. Leroy impresses me more and more each episode. I can really see why he would serve as a better candidate to face off against Pennywise than Halloran would. He's definitely got that dog in him. His senses are out of this world. I feel as though Halloran has a point when claiming that the part of Leroy's brain that's supposed to have fear is gone. Maybe the accident in South Korea got rid of that part of his brain, which would make Pennywise not as strong against him. Pennywise feeds off your biggest fears, but if you have no fears to begin with, what can he really do to you? Just like how they defeated him in the It films, from my memory. I can't really remember clearly right now because I haven't watched the films since they came out in theaters. Will is sweet saying that he believes that you believe it. In his mind, this was supposed to be kind words to Ronnie, who was upset. But that might have been the worst response to her in that moment. I wasn't surprised that Rich was lying, seeing that Jesus statue turned towards them with a creepy smile was really freaky. The cemetery collapsing under them while they were riding their bikes had me worried. I thought Rich's uncle was about to get a hold of him, but luckily he's small, so he was able to dodge him. I was hurt seeing a ghost/zombie looking creature that was chasing after Lily. It kind of looked like Teddy. And poor baby girl Susie may have been the cause of Will's potential death as he fell down into the ground alongside his bicycle. I was glad to see that Will is still unharmed after falling alongside his bicycle into the hole. Even though I'm still very much upset with Will at this point for not just getting back on his bike and catching up with Ronnie and them, I was curious to see what Will was able to capture in the photograph. I low-key feel as though something bad happened with him. Something doesn't seem right about Will once he stumbled back to them. I mean, he could have just been scared and tired from riding his bicycle so fast, but I do have a theory that that may not be the real Will. We'll see if I'm right. Their group hug at the end was adorable, though. I was shocked that they were actually able to see anything on the photographs at all, especially being able to capture Pennywise himself in the photographs. Will saying out loud that it was a clown made things get a whole lot realer. And yeah, that was my thoughts and review of episode 3 of It Welcome to Derry. I am anxiously waiting for episode 4 to come out. Let me know your thoughts on the episode down below in the comments. And until we talk again, stay blessed, continue to be true to yourselves, and keep progressing. Peace.